Hello, everyone, and happy Friday! Today is May the 21st, and this is the 46th edition of Book Fun Friday. Welcome. So, the young adult book I'm going to be talking about today is a memoir, and that memoir is titled Positive. It's written by the author Paige Rawl. So, I'm going to do things a little differently today. I'm actually going to read a passage first, then talk about it, and then read a second passage, and then I'll conclude. The title of this section is What Was? Today, when I tell people I took medicine every single day for almost a decade without ever once wondering why, they sometimes look at me like I have three heads, or maybe like I'm the world's biggest idiot. I can see their point. But from my earliest memories, medicine has just been part of my life. There I am, as a very young child, scrambling up onto the kitchen counter, folding my legs, crisscross applesauce, and waiting patiently. And there is my mother, twisting the child's safety lid off a white plastic jar, scooping a heap of powder and stirring it, still lumpy, into a plastic sippy cup filled with milk. She places the lid on the cup and hands it to me. I make a face and begin to drink. The taste is awful. I call this drink my yucky. Still, I'm a dutiful child. I drink it all. I would have, every time, even if my mother hadn't been watching me closely, her eyes focused on this ritual as if my life depended on it. It did, of course, although I didn't know that yet. Other times, people ask about my hospital visits. There had to have been so many. Did I really think that was normal? The short answer is yes, I did. And not only that, I liked it. The Riley Hospital for Children is located in downtown Indianapolis. Its vast modern architecture and the hustle and bustle of the city around it seems such an exciting contrast to our cozy, one-story ranch home with its tidy patch of cut grass. Inside the hospital entrance, I'd look up. All around the atrium, I would see enormous teddy bears perched on beams high overhead, their legs dangling. I'd pass a shiny carousel surrounded by pennies. I'd pass a shiny carousel horse surrounded by pennies. Each time, my mother and I both made wishes and tossed our own coins toward the animal. I would wish for dolls and dresses, for trips to the water park, for cupcakes and Christmas. My mother made her wish silently. When I asked what she wished for, she never told me. Instead, she would simply answer, "Same as last time, pumpkin." She'd hug me close then and finish, "Same as every time." We'd step into the glass elevators, real glass elevators, just like Willy Wonka's, and rise to the third floor. Waiting in the doctor's office, I could never keep myself from touching the medical equipment. I'd squeeze the rubber blood pressure pump, slip the plastic caps on and off the osteoscope, pull down on the rubbery black coils that connected these tools to the wall. "Stop messing with the doctor stuff," my mom would always try to scold me, unable to completely hide the hint of a smile on her face. "She's going to get mad at you, Paige." But when Dr. Cox, at last, breezed into the room in her funky shoes and chunky jewelry, she was never angry. Instead, she greeted me cheerfully. "Paige, it's good to see you." Her flowing, loose-fitting clothes peeked out from beneath her lab coat. Her stethoscope hung confidently around her neck. I loved seeing her. One day, I planned to be her. "I'm going to have your job when I grow up," I would announce proudly at my visits. "I know you will," Dr. Cox would smile back, brushing a streak of blonde hair from her eyes and holding out a tongue depressor. She always took me seriously. not the way some grown-ups treat kids. All right, let me tell you what's going on here. So the author, Paige, Rawl, was born HIV positive. And so really from her earliest memories, this is what she knew. She knew she sat on the counter and took medication every day with her mama. She knew she went to the doctor a lot. But for her, that was just a way of life. She didn't think there was anything unusual to that. And of course, as a small child, she didn't understand what HIV was. Well, the way Paige got HIV was this. Her father, unfortunately, was unfaithful in his marriage. So he contracted HIV that he passed on to his wife, who then transmitted that to Paige when she was pregnant with her. Well, at some point, their marriage ended, and Paige's father took off. And right before she turned 3 years old, both she and her mom were diagnosed HIV positive. And from that diagnosis, from that day on, her mom became vigilant about their care. She made sure she personally took her medicine. She made sure Paige took her medicine. Every single day, they maintained that regimen, and they went to their doctor visits. And her mom watched over her and really took excellent good care of Paige's health. Well, Paige loved and trusted her mom. She loved and trusted her doctor, Dr. Cox. And so from an early point, even though her father had left, he was very young when he left, so Paige didn't really remember him, but the adults in her life were there for her. They supported her. They took care of her. She trusted them. Well, I say that to say this. As Paige was getting ready to enter middle school, she was at the dentist and accidentally saw in her chart it was circled HIV positive. So that's when she learned of her status, and she came home and she asked her mom, "What is this HIV positive thing? What does that mean? Do I have that?" And her mom was really honest with her and said, "Yes, you do, and this is what that means." And they had a conversation about it. Well, because Paige had a good relationship with her mom and she trusted her and she trusted her doctor, Paige wasn't upset about that. She wasn't angry about that. Paige knew people who had chronic conditions, people who had diabetes who had to take medication every day, people who had asthma who took medicine and went to the doctor a lot. So for her, she didn't really think in her young girl's mind that this was such a big deal. Until she got into middle school and 7th grade and was betrayed by her best friend. Her best friend was sharing with her some distressing news from her own family. And Paige thought, well, she's sharing this thing with me. I'll share this thing with her. And almost from the moment Paige told her best friend, "I'm HIV positive," her friend, everything completely changed. Their friendship changed. Within just a couple of hours, the story was circulated all around the school. And so Paige knew, well, the only person I've ever told is my friend. She obviously blabbed it. And it, as if that weren't bad enough to be betrayed by her friend, that led to bullying. And I'm talking extreme bullying. The kids would make fun of her. They started calling her Paides, P-A-I-D-S, instead of Paige. I mean, the bullying just grew and grew and grew. It was awful. Well, Paige decided that she would go to some adults in her school and tell them what was going on and ask them for help. Because, like I said, she had a good relationship with her mom and her doctor. She thought adults were around to help her. That did not go well. The adults that she told at her school either dismissed her. For example, one adult said, "Just go back and tell everybody you were kidding. You don't actually have it." To another adult who blamed her and said, "Paige, you really need to stop stirring up so much drama." Well, it escalated to a point where things finally just got so bad for Paige that she started spiraling down. And she ended up in this terrible, deep, dark depression and hit a really low point in her young teenage life from which she had to come back. Now, she did. And when you read this memoir, you understand what that comeback looks like and how her message now, as an adult, she's in her 20s now, as a writer, as an educator, as an activist, you see this progression from that low point to now, where she's just this lovely, kind, positive person. It's not just HIV positive. She's positive about life. It's a lesson for everyone. So I'm going to read one more little part here. You kind of get the idea of what she was dealing with after the word got out that she was HIV positive. This is actually the preface to the book. Nobody quite prepares you for the moment you see your own name scrawled on a bathroom wall. To be honest, until I saw my own name, it never really occurred to me that all those names I'd seen before, all those names that appeared on the restroom walls of Dunkin' Donuts and 7-Eleven, the Castleton Square Mall, and the corner gas station represented actual human beings. Then, one day, I walked into a bathroom in my middle school and there was my name in thick black marker. Beneath it, other kids had added their own words in ballpoint pen. I never in a million years expected to see my name on this wall. I'd always considered myself a good girl, more Glee than Kardashians, more Taylor Swift than Miley Cyrus. I was born a joiner, not a fighter. But I was beginning to realize that sometimes a person doesn't get to choose whether she joins or fights. Sometimes the joining is impossible. Sometimes the fight chooses you. The universe plucks you specifically, out of all those souls out there and hands you something that makes fitting in and going with the flow utterly out of the question. I'm sorry, the universe says. I'm afraid you're going to have to fight. And when you stare back at the universe, not understanding, it simply shrugs. You better start now, or this world will destroy you. I didn't have a choice. I had to learn to fight. As my story unfolded over the next few years, I'd learned some things. I'd learned that you can fight with a smile, that you can fight in a dress or a cheerleader's skirt, pom-poms in hand. You can even fight just by wearing a sparkling tiara and a satin sash that says Miss Indiana High School America. But I hadn't figured those things out just yet. All I knew, standing in the girls' room, was that everything I knew, everything I had planned for myself, was changing. I stared at the writing and considered my options. I could scribble it all out, just try to erase the whole thing. Unfortunately, the only writing utensil in my purse was a pen. It might cross out those added comments, but it would never, ever cover that black marker. Besides, crossing out the words wouldn't stop people from thinking things about me. It wouldn't change anyone's mind. There was nothing to do but look in the mirror and smooth down my hair, take a deep breath, and push the door open. By the time I stepped into the hallway, I was smiling, as if I hadn't seen a thing, as if all was exactly as it should be, as if that felt-tipped warning to all the other kids that I didn't belong, that I was to be shamed and shunned, never existed. Paige has AIDS, it read. Then, underneath, slut, whore, and finally, Paige equals Paige. Actually, I had HIV, not AIDS. They're related, but they're not the same thing. Not that the facts mattered to the kids at Clarkstown Middle School. Just like it didn't matter that I wasn't contagious, that HIV wasn't like a cold or flu, that I posed no risk to them whatsoever. Nor did it matter that there was nothing visible about my virus, that I looked and walked and talked exactly and completely like everyone else. It didn't even matter that the kids who were giving me the hardest time had been my friends, my good friends, just last year. You know how it is. I had something that others didn't have. I was different. And I was learning that when you live in a suburban neighborhood on the northwest side of Indianapolis, and you are in 7th grade, and all you want is to be surrounded by friends, different is about the very worst thing you can be. And again, this memoir is titled Positive, and it is written by Paige Rawl. Well, guys, thank you as always. I appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I will see you next Friday for the next edition of Book Fun Friday. Bye.